Welcome to the Unlock 360 podcast, where education leaders share how they're turning vision into action, one system, one school, and one student at a time, because strong systems give every learner a better shot at success. Welcome back, everyone. Season 4 of Unlock 360. Joining us today, we have Christopher Medinger, the principal of Farragut Elementary School in Culver City, California. Welcome, Chris.
It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. And for those of you tuning in that may know that I spent some time in Southern California, it's really cool to have someone join us from not too far from where, I lived and worked.
Yeah, sunny
My
beach here. It's November and it's 70 degrees.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's cooled off quite a bit here. So Christopher, to get started, will you just share with our audience a bit about your educational journey that led you to where you are today?
Sure. So I actually got my bachelor's in economics, which has nothing to do with education. I spent a good, I would say, 3 or 4 months at a desk job. And I almost immediately didn't feel the inspiration. It was interesting. I took an after-school role at a YMCA, coaching a basketball team, and I still look back at that as really the changing point there for me.
Okay.
Soon moved into a teaching job in downtown Los Angeles at a charter school. Got my credential in that and ended up becoming actually a mentor for teachers first, where I was working with teachers in that school to look at their tests instead of like A's and B's, to look at each question and look at the skills involved and to make groups of kids who may have trouble with question number 4 or this particular skill to target their instruction. And this is way back in, I don't know if you guys know the data director or API score days, which was
Mm-hmm.
very early on with that data-driven stuff. That actually led the CEO of that charter and the board to offer me an opportunity to start my own school with them. And that
Yeah.
was been a
Tell us.
great journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us about that. Tell us about what it was like to start a school from scratch.
Well, so there was an afternoon, so we knew our principal had left to become the CEO, and actually I had been applying to become the principal of the existing school there, um, and I didn't get it, and I was actually pretty disappointed that week, when the founder and board chair took me aside and said, "We have a different path for you, Chris." And I was like, "Okay, what's gonna happen?" And then we wrote a charter together. I don't know if you know how charters work, but you have to write basically, a 70, 80 page document with your vision of the school, and submit that to LUSD. And then we began looking for a site, and we found this church site. We didn't find that site until I would say March of the year before it opened, which gave us about 3 months, 4 months to start recruiting students. And the other curveball on this was we had sort of planned on just recruiting kindergarten students to kind of grow the school slowly into its
Yeah.
full enrollment. And we got to a place where a church where it was illegal to have kindergartners there because all the classrooms were on the 4th or 5th floor of a church, old church
Okay.
building. So we had some parents. Basically, the way this started was with a weekly parent meeting. And so every Tuesday night, I started inviting parents to come join, and we would talk about, hey, what do we want for this school to be? And we created a shared values around basically the charter school itself is built on values, um, about reaching your potential and making a better world. And we wanted to sort of interpret that in a new way at the school. Together, we came up with the name Everest, and we talked about climbing, and we're all
Yeah.
climbing. The adults, the kids, we're all climbing to our full potential. And with that, we kind of took off. It was a crazy ride. A lot of passing flyers and Chuck E. Cheese's and on the sidewalk and train stations and stuff. But we built an enrollment K-8 in 3 months with 180
Wow.
students. I hired what was that, 25 staff members, including 9 teachers, and we had a standalone class K-8 that first year. It was
Wow.
pretty wild to all be sort of strangers on the first day of school and the
Yeah.
enrollment, but again, building that shared vision around like, why are we all here? We have a common vision. We just sort of gelled and took off. And then, we were in that church space. It's a great church space, but it was old and it was, dangerous at times, for about 8 years. And then we were able to work with our board and some donors to raise $60 million and, in a
Wow.
sense, design with those very same parents. We were able to design with the architects what this new building would look like, and we moved in 2021 to this brand new, beautiful building next to Virgil Middle School on Beverly, and it was a wonderful ride. It really was.
Wow. Okay. Now you just dropped a nugget there that has me wondering. So you
Yeah.
moved in 2021. We know what happened right before that.
Oh yeah. Well, there was
Were there
chapters.
delays as a
Eh,
result of
yeah, well, one day we're gonna write a book about this, but probably chapter 5 would be COVID, right? So that was a wild ride for us. I mean, our charter network, everyone was sort of, caught off guard there in March
Yeah.
of 2020. Um, I am the type of person I really enjoy, I enjoy curveballs in some level. Like, so I remember working with the leadership team and saying, "Okay, this is gonna be interesting. We're gonna have to design a school day that is synchronous and that keeps the routine for these families and these students so that they have that necessary connection points with teachers and peers, and then are also presented the information." And we definitely shied away from using all the sort of software platforms for teaching, a little bit there for practicing. um, but long story short, our main thrust was to educate the parents who were sitting there next to their kids with tips and tricks, like, I don't know, modeling, like the idea that you do, I do, you show them what they're doing.
Right.
We do, we talk through it, but you hold the pencil, and then you do, you show, you demonstrate that you mastered it. We taught things like that to the parents, maybe also how to discuss a book at bedtime. And all of a sudden, they were really having a dramatic impact on our benchmark scores. And we're really proud to say that, in 2021 and 2022, while a lot of schools went down on their proficiency on the SBAC, Everest actually went up significantly. And so it's something that really I've held on to since COVID now, of the power of engaging those parents.
Yeah, for sure. I want to come back to that. Curious about the brand new beautiful building. Was it underway when COVID hit or not yet? Like,
Well, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot involved with permitting. So I think we ended up, I remember probably visiting 10 to 11 different sites, and it
okay.
was very slow moving. Like, we had to get an educational occupancy permit, so you had to get a change of use permit. And
Okay.
it was so slow to get that, that by the time we were ready to make a move on a site, a Gold's Gym or someone would swoop in and grab the property, and then we'd start over again. And so it was really sort of this roller coaster ride for us, our staff, our parents,
I
where I would
bet.
try to, like, build this momentum and encourage, like, "All right, we're almost there, guys. We're gonna make it," and then have it, the rug pulled out. But when we finally found that place, it was pretty amazing. You feel the universe at work. It was in this beautiful sort of nook of a community. It's in the historic community, actually, so it actually made the permit harder. But long story short, we were in that permitting process when COVID struck, and we were
Okay.
just moving ahead to try and get that CUP approved so we could begin construction, and it delayed us for sure. But we were actually, I remember, with a mask on Zoom, showing the kids at these, like, big assembly Zooms, like the building itself as
Yeah.
it was being put together and stuff. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. It is, you're right. Like, can you imagine the book that could be written of all of the like craziness? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like, we did that? That happened. Yes, it did.
Oh my god, yeah, and then, yeah, those certain waves came by. I remember coming back from Christmas one time, and, we all were out there trying to test kids, and it's like, positive, 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 uh-oh,
Mm,
and it was like, "Whoa, 80% of these kids are going home. What are we doing?" And then I
yeah.
remember, like, so one thing we did with our COVID plan, or I tried to bake into it, I learned from some of the districts about having phases and then being very clear about the phase. So we're like, phase 3 we're back in school, but if we went back to phase 2, we would do cohorts again. Phase 1 would be online only, and as long as they knew the steps, we were able to go up and down on those steps more fluidly because everybody, the staff and the parents knew what those steps were.
Okay. So one of the things that you mentioned previously was around empowering parents. Tell our audience more about what that looks like for you and your
Yeah, well,
professional
I
career.
myself, I'm a parent of a 5 and a 7-year-old. So
Okay.
it's been an interesting journey for me to now be at a place where, the parents I serve as a principal to, now I can kind of really see their experience. And all along the way, I kind of had a sense that when parents are involved, even as a teacher, when parents get involved in the actual learning of the students,
Uh-huh.
and not drop them off at school and say, all right, you guys handle that. I'll pick them up and then we'll go get an ice cream cone or something.
Yeah.
Like when they're rolling up the sleeves and talking to their kids about what they're learning, it's kind of like when you and a spouse or a friend talk about your day at work. There's something cathartic about that for the kid. And
Right.
I think I kind of the analogy to me is like sunshine on a flower. Like when a parent puts their screen down and gives 20 minutes, right? And the kid turns off the TV, gives 20 minutes of direct attention. There's so much or there's so much that can transform that student in that
Right.
moment. And then when you direct that towards what they're learning at school, all of a sudden now you've created this incentive for them to listen, raise their hand in class. Hey, my dad taught me that already. And it builds a momentum for almost any kid at any socioeconomic level, any cultural level, to be just more engaged and more intrinsically motivated to learn. And it's an interesting thing because parents are craving how they can help, right? And how do they help without stepping on toes? And often it turns into like protecting their student from being bullied or like, coming to school with sort of complaints. And it creates a rift between what really should be a partnership.
Yeah. Okay. I like this. And the other piece that before the show, we chatted a little bit, and you shared, and that I had uncovered in your background was that you have been called Captain Chris. You didn't share that as part of your journey, or you haven't yet. So please tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. So, um, as I was beginning teaching, I really would loved I mean, I'm from the East Coast originally, so coming to LA, I mean, part of the draw was to live near the beach, near the
Yeah.
water, but obviously on a starting teacher salary, you can't really afford that. Um, so I found an old boat, a marine trader, it's called the Blue Moon, and I started to learn I was in my 20s, learned how to fix things and learned how to navigate sailing and that kind of stuff. And I realized that over the summers I had free, that was an opportunity to maybe explore a side hustle there. And so I got a captain's license and I began a dolphin cruise business where I take families out. And there's a certain spot called Redondo Canyon where the dolphin migrations go by. And I think of it as like the alternative to SeaWorld, right? Like, so instead
Yeah.
of going to see them in captivity, you go to see them in their natural environment. And dolphins are amazing species.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And you still do that today?
Yeah, hanging on by a thread. I mean, obviously, as the economy goes up and down, it's discretionary income there. But I think we have a core, like repeat business community, which is great. And we
That's
also
awesome.
have a sort of a unique business on all the Google metrics and stuff. We are a dolphin cruise is something different than really what's out there in LA. So
Okay.
it's helped us to sort of stay afloat.
Okay, and now are you still, captain of the ship?
Yeah, well, as a principal, as a school leader, my summers are a little tighter.
Yeah,
So I do have a few captains now that I'm mentoring up, and I have a good team. I have a great team.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
fun. Have you taken your own, like, students out on
Yeah, I mean, this is back at the charter school, but for sure, like if they, we would have certain like award winners got a boat trip with Mr. M, or we had
okay,
raffles. In Culver City, we did a fundraiser now where we offered that on the auction. It's pretty fun.
That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember teaching in Southern California and having, an experience for kids to go deep sea fishing in Dana Point area,
Oh,
and
that's beautiful.
I just loved doing that, and it was so cool. So many of the kiddos from, that area, Riverside County, Inland Empire, hadn't even been to the beach,
No. No, they
and
wear, like,
so
jeans to the beach. Yeah.
yeah, so that was really special.
No, I'll say this, like, during COVID, back to that, I was able to do Zooms and those things from the ocean. So I was
Oh,
able
I
to
bet.
work from
Okay.
home. It was pretty fun.
That would be fun. Yeah, that would be a neat way to keep
Yeah.
your spirits up
Pretty
during that.
relaxing. Yeah, exactly.
For sure. Yeah. Well, share with us, if you would, a little bit about your school now, and some of the dynamic and in terms of your student body, your population, and how they're performing when it comes to state assessments and state accountability.
Sure. Yeah. So, since Everest landed in the new building, I spent a year or two there. And then with my own kids growing up, made a decision to move closer to home at Culver City. And so I took an opportunity here at Farragut, which is a K-5 or TK to 5 elementary school. It's in Culver City. It's got 17 different languages spoken at home. It has a pretty um, smaller, socioeconomic, disadvantaged community than I've been used to. So it's in the 20% range, but it's a very, important place that I've been focused on because historically that their success has not been at the baseline of the whole school success. So as I've been here, I worked around like last year, creating almost like a parent ed and a staff campaign around it takes a village, and understanding that like every adult in a student's life contributes to their success. And you never know if you end up being the mentor for somebody who's not in your class or just, you see them at breakfast or something like that. And just to really take care of those moments to make sure that all are welcome for that and that we are sort of being positive and inclusive for everyone. Um, it kind of also turned into a parent committee, a parent PTA kind of discussion around like, let's make a new friend today. And so there was sort of um, people that have been in Culver City for many, many years, and then there was others that were new and maybe permitting in. And I think just the simple act of like while you're waiting for your kid at dismissal to turn and find somebody you don't know and say hi and to make a friend. And that
Yeah.
really built this village. And I'm a strong believer in like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And like as I feel like kids felt more safe and nurtured in the environment, I am starting to see in the benchmarks that the scores are starting to bounce and return. And I think once that 20% really can start to get their confidence and start to make that climb as we did at Everest, I think we are going to start to see the scores reach higher. Because now we're really one unit. And so this year, at the beginning of the year, we set our theme as academic excellence, and that
Okay.
would involves everybody in looking at the skills that we taught last year. Which of the standards could we do a better job as, let's a PLC or a grade level? Which kids are sort of maybe falling behind on the growth and we need to coach up a little bit? And then again, I brought back that idea of focusing all of my coffee and chats on what can parents do at home to drive learning. Using car talk to do Socratic seminar, right? To use your bedtime story to really talk about
Tell us
prediction
what
and evaluation. Yeah.
tell us what you mean about car talk and Socratic
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. Car
shed some light
talk is
on that.
awesome. Well, so it's something I do with my own kids. Drive them around to soccer practice and violin and blah blah blah, and you know, taking opportunities to actually ask and answer real questions about either their life or a book they're reading, having them cite facts and evidence and develop an
Yeah.
opinion. And if we all know Socratic seminar, then we refine it and we go around that circle again, and we restate our thesis and then we refine it down again. So those sort of practices, verbally in a car translate almost immediately to any of the written assignments they face in school. Um, and then, parents were actually blown away by Bloom's taxonomy just in general, like understanding that the school approaches sort of
Interesting.
recall all the way up to synthesis. And, these are at Culver City pretty smart professional parents who were
Sure.
just gobbling that up and now approaching conversations in a different way with their kids.
That's really cool, car talk, and it's so simple. It seems so, like, right there, but it's really not because in today's day and age, many parents are, maybe listening to a book on tape, listening to the radio, even I mean, I'll say, even some of my friends making videos for friends, like, to connect
Yeah,
to and, kids are often in the back or even if they're in the front seat, old enough to be, on their devices, and so, like, just
exactly.
capitalizing on the time that you're already together,
Exactly.
um, to connect
Because I
is
think that's where it comes down to. It's like, "Oh, I don't have time to make time." But when you start seeing the pockets of time that
yeah,
are already
yeah,
there in your routine, and then you just see, like again, the metaphor I always say is, it's like sunshine on a flower. Like, when you give your kid direct positive attention for, like, 20 minutes on a regular basis, it is transformative for them. And then when you push that
yeah.
towards, like, academic stuff, all of a sudden now they're super into whatever they're learning in school. Like, all of a sudden, long division is a topic that will get your parents' direct attention. They're gonna be all about it.
Absolutely. I love this idea. Chris, is there anything else that you were hoping that we might jump into or explore in our conversation today?
No, no, it's been great. It's been great. Yeah, I feel like, I feel like I would hope educators out there are thinking about the future and I mean, we're all looking at, like, teachers that are grading using ChatGPT, students who are writing essays on ChatGPT, and then you wonder where the brain functions are, because if we're just ChatGPTing our whole lives, I mean, yes, I think there's a dual language need. Like, we gotta teach our kids how to prompt. We gotta teach our kids how to get the most out of those tools. But yes, also we need to have a notebook and a pencil and say, yeah, you write your own essay about this question and you cite your own sources. And I mean, maybe not get the encyclopedia, but at least find this information for yourself, generate your own opinion about it, and then convince others about it. Like, I see this in all my principal meetings and teacher PDs, and that this question still hasn't really been answered of, like, how are we getting kids to be the kids they need to be to meet the moment of the future? I feel like AI does a lot of the easy stuff, and then we're
Yeah.
expecting these kids to have these high level thinking skills already baked in. But if they've been chat GPTing their whole life, they'll never be able to synthesize or evaluate. We got to really make sure we're working them towards those goals.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought this up because it reminds me of a recent experience and then some from the past. So one of the pieces that we do in our work with schools and districts is really develop the capacity of teachers to be leaders. And sometimes that involves working with the school site leadership team, and sometimes that involves working with teacher teams. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's a district leadership team, but really developing teachers as leaders. And one of the skill sets that strong educational leaders have is really the ability to deeply analyze data. And when we think about data, we frequently think about data in terms of numbers. And um, I think that part of the development for teachers and even administrators is usually pretty strong. Um, but there's a whole world to uncover in a stack of paper
Oh
that
yeah. I
that
love
the
scratch paper.
You know what I mean? Like and I know no one really taught me how to take my students' work and really learn from it. Yes, how to have a set of success criteria and score it or look for those pieces, sure. But how to open your mind to what else you might be seeing and what else you might uncover, and what that could mean is a whole different experience. And so just one example, actually, this was last week. I was working with a team of science teachers, high school science teachers in the Bay Area in California, actually. And one of the teachers had a stack of work, and another teacher had um, the output, like, so who got what right, like how many questions a student got correct and how many they didn't get correct. And this was not a high school, this was a school site leadership team, an
Oh,
elementary
nice.
school site leadership team in Sacramento. Anyways, that's not the point. But so everyone has given the same thing, but what was brought to the table is in some cases a stack of paper, and in other cases, like the output in the numerical data piece, and like list of students, um, number of accurate, responses, number of inaccurate responses, kind of a thing. And was like, was I supposed to bring this or that? And it's like, well, you didn't do anything wrong. This is how we learn from it. So either is okay, and we can learn from both. But if we're gonna look at the who got what, like how many you got right or wrong, we need to know what they selected if they got it wrong, so we can try to dig into the error analysis, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many teachers out there that don't see that.
Right. And then if the power, so if you bring the stack of paper, the power in that is we can look under the surface. And so when we are analyzing things, we might see that, you know what, these students met the success criteria and these students didn't. Now we can look at, in the stack of work of students who met the success criteria, what do we see aside from meeting the criteria? In other words, I see annotation. I see, test taking strategies because they're marking certain pieces out. And then in this stack, we can look and see the same thing. Like, what patterns do we see? It could be that we see purposeful annotation in both stacks of work for kids that met it and kids that didn't. And so we know now that it's not because of that
Exactly.
that's holding them back. But we can't see those things.
Oh,
And
no, it's totally like it's all logic, right? And it's
yeah,
deducing, and I
yeah,
love watching thinking on a scratch paper. That's really you can
right?
it's like you're a doctor almost, so you diagnose, "Oh, this is the
Yeah.
confusion." Yeah.
And there's two stories of instances with teams. So one was a Southern California high school math team, and they were bringing in all their work. And so one particular teacher had, like 180 student work samples because class sizes are pretty large. And I think they were doing a 6-period day. And so we're looking through this work, and what I notice in that hadn't really been discovered yet by that particular teacher or the team was that I'm seeing a whole lot of kids that have it was like one problem. So I'm seeing a whole lot of kids that have all kinds of work on that paper that they erased before they turned in. And
Ah,
so I'm like, "Hold on, let's take a look at this." And so we start to,
yeah.
like, sort it, and it turns out to be, something like 30 or 40 out of 180. That's a pretty big chunk of
Mm,
kids. And so
yeah.
what does that tell us? And we can start, like, asking ourselves what that might mean, right?
Oh, yeah. No,
And
and
then
I mean, what's really fun is to have that conversation with then the student and say, "Hey, why
yeah,
did you erase that? What was happening there?"
yeah, exactly. And then I'm thinking, okay, there was another, instance where a team of teachers, elementary teachers, brought work to the table, and we're looking through one set of the work, and we see a large number of kids are doodling. And so what does that tell us? Like, we can
Mhm.
ask some questions.
Engaged. Are you engaged? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you may have a few kids that just do that, but when you have a lot of the kids, we're
Oh,
seeing a
yeah.
pattern. What does that mean? So back to your point, I think that if if we relied too heavily on AI, whether it's ChatGPT or one
Yeah.
of the other platforms, then we may miss out on really understanding the thinking behind
Exactly. I mean,
the way
it's we're not anywhere near where they could, like, analyze scratch paper to the level of a 20-year veteran teacher, you know? And I
Yeah.
mean, even just walking into a classroom and you see the student action or not, I often see the
And
folks that care about scratch paper are really dialed into this is the student's classroom and it's their work that's being produced. I'm facilitating. And really, that's what it is, facilitating a journey of learning. And that sort of roadmap is what their scratch paper is. And the test, I mean, the tests are meaningful, especially if they're norm referenced. But when you really want to help that individual student, having their scratch paper come to the back table with you and then working, hey, so I
yeah.
saw that you were on the right track there, but oops, right there is where you maybe misunderstood what we're doing. And that's where you can get back to that, like, I do, we do, you do, like modeling back out. Oh, try this out. See how this works.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. I don't know that I'd say it's impossible, and I do think, the future is yet to be seen in terms of,
Yeah.
how well
Well,
these.
Amira, you've heard of Amira, right? So
Yeah.
all the districts are adopting this Amira chatbot who's like the student reads to it and then it tells you all this information and stuff. So they're going for it. I agree with you though. I don't know if they'll ever get there. They may like approach it, but never really get to the place where a human being can really see. And then I would make the argument that a parent who really knows their kid better than any teacher, if they start to understand a little bit of how important the scratch paper is, that's even deeper in because for a parent who knows their kid like the back of their hand to watch their thinking, you really, really can see some real like light bulbs go off, needles move, you know?
Yes. Yes. That's a good point. So, Chris, what does the future hold for you? Tell us
Well,
what you're
I'm
thinking
just
and
a humble old principal doing principal things. I don't know. I hope one day, like, I would be in a place where I could work with principals, work with school leaders, work with districts on how they can engage parents to be a partner with them on this journey. And I think as the funding for education goes down and maybe the staff goes down and all the instructional aides go down, we have this great resource sitting right there waiting to help. And I just try to find ways to activate and inspire them and be vulnerable. And I think the biggest thing I keep hearing from parents is like, I just don't want to step on anyone's toes or do
uh,
something the teacher would be upset with. And the answer really is if you give 20 minutes of your day to just spending time with them on what they're learning, there's nothing you can do but good.
yeah. And I hear you have a passion project that you're working on.
Well, I mean, for those who are listening, if you're interested in this parent potential, we're forming a program for parents. That allows you to, with a deck of cards, cover all the standards in parent-friendly language, using some routines like bedtime, car talk. We have one called Listen and Write. So
Oh,
routines
cool.
you can really bake into your daily life that allow you to engage your student screen-free with a notebook, and really have those moments. And it'll inspire them to raise their hand and say, "Oh, my dad or my mom told me that." And it'll get them intrinsically motivated to learn and grow to their potential. So
That's awesome.
it's parentpotential .com. And yeah, come visit the site. There's a lot of opportunities to engage with us.
That's so cool. And then where do they go if they wanna learn more about your school or about, Culver City Unified?
Yeah, well, ccusd.org has a great website with we have dual language immersion and we have wonderful programs. We have this thing called Art and Innovation, where it's half art, half engineering. So there's a
Cool.
great site, ccusd.org.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. It was great to
Yeah.
have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
And to all of those that tuned in, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Unlock 360 podcast. Follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube and visit leadteachlearn360.com to learn more about us because every school deserves systems that work and leaders who can make them thrive.